On today's video, we have a lot of news coming out of Florida we're going to cover. The first thing is about a street shutdown situation in Lehigh Acres, or a street takeover that led to 2 elderly people getting popped. According to all the news sources, there was no provocation. This is the intersection where it happened in Lehigh Acres on the corner of Milwaukee and Homestead, a known street takeover site. Now, let me tell you a little bit of information. If you ever find yourself out at night and you see a bunch of people doing donuts and burnouts in the middle of the road, and there's, let's say, a few hundred people doing it, the best thing you could do is not try driving through it, honking the horn, and asking those people to get out of your way. They're already breaking the law, and they will likely have absolutely no problem putting you back in your place very quickly. I'm not saying that it's right for these people to be doing these street takeovers, but what I'm saying is, if you're a civilian, you're a complete square, and you see a few hundred people gathered from far away, you might want to stay the crap out of their path. Now, these people pretty much sealed their fate because they recorded a video and uploaded it to Snapchat showing the exact incident and how it happened. So that's a close case already. But what I do want to emphasize to you, the square civilian, is that if you're driving around and you see a street takeover, the best thing you could do is stay far from it. This isn't the first time that this happens in Southwest Florida. You guys remember the guy in North Fort Myers who tried to stop the people from street racing? He put himself out as a victim. When they later got more details, it emerged that the guy was actually provoking the people, trying to stop their street racing. If you're a civilian and you're by yourself and you see a large group of people that are breaking the law,
and take a picture of his fucking license plate,
the best thing you could do is stay the crap out of your way. You're not a hero, you're not a crime prevention specialist, and you're definitely not tough.
God, he didn't do any damage.
Go! Keep it moving, woman. This is why back to back, this isn't the first time this happens in Southwest Florida. When civilians try to act like they're heroes or try to think that nobody's going to tell me I can't cross the road, they end up getting hurt. This isn't the first time that one of these street takeovers or street drag racing events in Southwest Florida leads to quote-unquote non-provocation civilians getting hurt. Now, I don't know about you, but when I see these large street takeovers, I get the crap out of the way. Now they go on the news and say they were victims, and no, you were not a victim, and they're saying they were unprovoked. No, you were provoking them, because if you see a bunch of people doing a street takeover and you decide that you want to drive your truck and trailer with a boat through their street takeover, that's a provocation to them. These carried out people and people that are civilians that think they're tough are going to find out that in Southwest Florida, these streets is real ass shit cut. If you're a Karen, go from the Starbucks to your little private condo in Southwest Florida, people think that they're tough, and they get all Karen down, they try to drive through a street takeover.
I'm not being rude, I'm saying,
and they're going to find out that these are some real street individuals that have absolutely no problem putting one in you. Take the Karen encounter that I had a while back in Fort Myers Beach, where these women try to get all disrespectful and tough with me. They don't know what type of time I'm on. On this video, we're going to see if Katie can fit inside the trunk of... Give it a try. Just go for it. Lucky for them, I'm a square civilian, but I could have been from the streets, dog, and handled their Karen butt in a different way. But that's the problem with Southwest Florida. You got all these people that are Karened out, and they think they can disrespect people, and they think they can threat on people because they're self-entitled, but they don't realize when they move to Lehigh Acres... Helicopter flying over us, Lee County over us. Just people walking on the road. I can't really... And that's how these people act right before they make their police report. On their police report, they're complete victims. When they show up on the news saying, they hurt my grandma, they're complete victims. But they weren't complete victims when they're out there Stay the crap out of the way. I mean, it's common sense. You had enough common sense to move to Southwest Florida, move to a gated community, and live a nice suburban life, but you didn't have enough common sense to stay the crap out of the way from bad people. I want to see the video of those people before they started backing up. Because supposedly they're backing up. Oh, my grandparents were just trying to leave. No, they weren't trying to leave. They were probably right up to the street takeover, honking their horn, acting a complete fool like normal 80-year-old people would do in Southwest Florida. Let this be a wake-up call to all you normal square civilians to stay the crap out of the way when you see 500 people at 4 in the morning doing burnouts on the middle of an intersection in Lehigh Acres.
Peel them tires.
I was gonna give you. I was gonna get that.
See what you got,
Man, I can barely do a wheelie, bro.
Come on, do it.
I probably fall my asphalt tire.
Do it. I dare you. Come on.
What you got?
Let's do it. Yeah, baby.
Cannot stop people from acting a complete fool. But what I can do is make sure that when they're acting a complete fool, I'm nowhere near them. Recently, I had a YouTuber telling me that I had to check into his hood and his street credentials and that he was going to roll up on me and check me in. Turns out it was a little white kid from his mama's basement. Were they trying to drive through the intersection knowing there's people doing burnouts and having a good old hood time, and you out here trying to mess up their hood rattery? What type of provocation did you do? Because they're saying there was no provocation. And I know Southwest Florida, and believe me, there was a provocation. They did something, and maybe what they did was just to pull up to the street scene if they weren't part of it. If you pull up to a street scene, that could provoke people to react. And this certified person from the street will tell you that you and my hood dog is a provocation. Spring break, Panama City Beach is usually wild. People are always drinking too much and arguing, fighting, and acting a complete fool. Well, that's what happened in Panama City Beach. 3 men from Alabama with Montgomery-style rifles decided to have a poop out in a bar in Panama City Beach. They were arrested and their little friends were confiscated. Sure, back in Alabama, you can combat it out with at bars, but here in Florida, we're civilized, and they're most likely going to be in for the nightmare of their lifetime in the Florida correctional system. People from other states come to Florida on spring break, and they think this is the Wild West. Spring break isn't over. Miami already had an incident. That was on video. Lehigh already had an incident. That was on video. Ybor City had an incident. It's probably on videos because there's cameras all through there. And of course, the 3 people from Alabama who decided to bring out the sticks at a dang bar in Panama City Beach. Florida spring break is off to a horrible start, and if I do some spring break coverage, it will most likely be beaches during the daytime. I'm going to stay the crap out of the night scene. All these events have something in common. There's always somebody recording it.
I don't know what you're YouTubing or what your purpose of YouTubing this is for.
Entertainment, just fun. So you can have plenty of evidence when you go to court. There he is. Come on with me, sir. You're officially part of property of the Jacksonville. You're officially property of Jacksonville. Go for a ride, buddy. Go out there, enjoy the beaches, enjoy spring break. But when it gets dark and people start pulling out cameras and talking about you and my hood dog, it might be time to leave. Me and my wife have enjoyed the United States from Los Angeles to New York to Dallas to Houston to Miami to Chicago to Louisville, Indianapolis, and we're still here and alive today because when you see things that just don't look like they're going to lead in a good direction, all you have to do is walk the other way. Man, I would have stood my ground, Jose. I saw you running. I saw you driving away, man. I got my little artificial bravery right here in my pocket. I'm going to stick around and see what happens to me. You wouldn't believe how much trouble you could escape by simply leaving a scene. I remember a while back somebody pulled up to my driveway in Naples, Florida, and they wanted to fight with me. They were gangstalicious, man. They was ready to swing. And I was like, you want to fight me? He was like, yeah, man, I want to fight. I want to fight, man. Took his shirt off, and he had his friend with him. So of course, you know, when your friend's watching, you get a little extra bravery. So you got the drink in your system. That makes you brave. You got a piece in your pocket. That makes you brave. Let's go over these things that make you brave. A little something in your system, a friend watching to toughen you up a little bit more, and of course, a piece in your pocket in case your hands aren't good enough. This guy was absolutely invincible. He takes his shirt off, he's flexing his muscles. Oh man, we're gonna fight, man. And I said, you wanna fight me? He's like, yeah, I wanna fight you right now. Just like I'm talking to you, nice and calm, I said, okay, I'm gonna walk inside my house, you can go fight with yourself. And he goes, then he was like, you gonna leave me out here like a dog? I was like, well, you're acting like a dog, so yes, I'm gonna leave you out here. I walked into my property and I closed my gate, locked my door, went inside my house, and then I watched him from my cameras like punching the hood of the car because he wanted to fight somebody. It wasn't gonna be me. And that's all you gotta do. It's a completely okay to walk away from a situation. You fight, oh yeah, I'm gangsta-licious. Okay, well, let me just walk away from you for a minute. You coming back to fight me? Oh yeah, for sure, man. I'm gonna be with you in a minute. Then you walk inside your house, pack your bags, and go to Panama City Beach for 3 days and let it steam off. That's all you gotta do to avoid trouble. So if you're out there enjoying Florida Beach spring break, all you gotta do is pack it up early, walk away, don't have any artificial bravery with you. You ever seen cats go at it? Cats are always fighting each other. You just drive through a neighborhood and you hear cats just going at each other. You ever see a vulture getting attacked? No, you know what a vulture does? It waits for a dead carcass, make sure it ain't moving, and then it goes in to eat it. And then if some bigger animal comes around, it's flying away before the other animal comes by to get near it. That is how you stay alive on this earth for a very long time. But if you want to exercise your rights in front of people, I'm not going to back down from anybody. I got my peace right here. And you're going to get your peace. Your peace. Your rest in peace, son. Let this be a warning example to all of you to be a dang coward. To exercise your right to leave and not have anything to prove to anybody. The only thing I need proof is proof of funds when I'm paying my bills.
I just need your license, the vehicle registration, and proof of insurance.
So there it is. The state of Florida is a complete madhouse, as expected, by the way, during spring break, with just about every single city having an incident that leads to somebody getting some lead put up them. And as usual, somebody's there with a camera to make sure it ends up on Snapchat, Instagram, or whatever these hood people are posting crap to these days. A dead dog, no, that's not how it goes. A live dog is better than a dead lion. And don't think that I'm not sympathetic to somebody's grandma getting popped in Lehigh Acres. It's not that I don't feel sympathetic for them. Here is Lehigh Acres highlighted for us. It's a huge portion of Southwest Florida, and it is completely unincorporated, as is typical for Florida. Lehigh Acres should be a city. Interesting place. It's among the 10 fastest growing places, approaching almost 200,000 people who have absolutely no common sense. Hispanic is orange, black is green, white is blue. And as you can see, the vast majority of Lehigh is currently Hispanic. And areas that used to be white are now turning Hispanic.
But I've been fighting this since I was 17 years old.
We're going to talk about at the end of the video, this is a trend in South Florida. Hispanics and blacks are pretty much becoming the majority in most of South Florida. A lot of them are fleeing racism in other parts of the country.
I'm from a magically planet 10.
You might think that probably nothing happens at night in Lehigh Acres because it's mostly a rural area.
Sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
You would be mistaken to know that there's times where hundreds, if not thousands of people will gather in absolutely remote areas, and sometimes they'll stop you like this person did here. When somebody tries to stop you, even if it's late at night or it's a large group, you should probably adhere to it.
Yeah, big sign up there says no turn on red. Yeah. Okay.
I've been in situations where I have been in the most remote parts of Lehigh. I'm talking far out in Greenbrier by myself at night, and I encounter a group of 500 people. If they wanted to take my ATV, they very easily could. While it's very intimidating to be stopped by a large group, sometimes it's outright dangerous. If you run away, you know what could happen.
Where's your actual license?
Right in my pocket. If you want it, you grab it.
I thought you said it was in your truck.
It's in my cell phone, I'm sorry. According to Wink News, an investigation is underway involving 2 elderly victims at an intersection of Lehigh Acres early Sunday morning. The victims were traveling to T West at 4 in the morning with a truck and a trailer when a big group of people surrounded their vehicle and their boat. Without warning, an unknown suspect shot through the driver's side window once, hitting both victims. The victims were transported to the hospital, suffering crucial injuries, and they're asking help through Crime Stoppers. You're probably wondering, that sounds very suspicious. It doesn't make sense. And you're right. It is suspicious. And it doesn't make sense. Most likely, there's a lot of information missing from this article. Why is so little information being given to us? And why would something this strange happen? Clearly, a group of people did not surround a vehicle and shoot at it and then leave. That isn't what happened here. There's a lot of information missing. What we have seen in Southwest Florida in the past, crap can really go down. There's no knowing how many of these large groups that get together there are in Lehigh, congregate around a particular area of the city or a neighborhood or a specific sporting event like ATVs or golf carts or whatever the crap it may be. I remember one time I was driving through Lehigh, I hit a group of about 500 people and they were very upset at me because I had my headlights on. In that particular area, they didn't want people to have their headlights on because the helicopters could see you. So here's 500 people mad at me because I'm driving through a specific spot. I can't even tell you how many encounters I had in Lehigh that really went nasty. But I did learn something from my encounters, that there's one specific group that's out there doing all types of bad stuff that will play the villain card right up until stuff gets really serious. At that point, they become law reporting civilians, and when they make their police reports, they always seem to omit what they did that caused the encounter to go downhill. Take a thing that happened to me that I haven't talked about on this channel, where I was out riding and a group of about 5 people tried to hurt me, and I pulled a Charlotte, North Carolina on them. They would have easily called the cops, and maybe some of the people that were in that group were related to the cops that were going to show up. It would have probably been a huge loss for me because they were out there with one hand playing the thug card, and as soon as something serious happens, then they talk to the law. And I say that because at some point in this police report, there's information missing that we're not being told. Let's just assume that 2 people are driving at 4 a.m. through Lehigh Acres with a very expensive boat on their way to the Florida Keys, as is reported here on the news. The first thing that comes to my mind is, with as many boat thefts as have been happening in Lehigh Acres and South Florida in general, this is a huge thing now. What exactly happened in this situation? The possibilities here are endless. Another news report is a couple that moved from the Northeast. They had a Puerto Rican flag on their car when they did the news report, so we're going to assume that they're Puerto Ricans. They moved to Lehigh Acres and they saw a brand new house being robbed across the street. Ironically, this was also happening at 4 in the morning. The person put a refrigerator in the back of a pickup truck. They thought it was suspicious. They got on the phone, called the cops. By the way, not only now do the criminals know where they live, but they also know their car. They also know their faces because they went on the news and talked about it. And then they mentioned they were scared, which means if these criminals want to go ahead now and intimidate them, they've given all the information to the criminals. So I don't think they moved very smartly. They clearly come from a very square place and have no idea how to move on the streets. They mentioned they had bought an empty lot in Lehigh Acres and were planning to build a home, but now that they saw somebody break into a new home and steal a dang refrigerator and then go on a police chase with a refrigerator in the back, that they changed their mind about wanting to build a house in Lehigh because now they're scared. Well, they should have been scared if they had watched my YouTube videos. This video is the truth about moving to Lehigh Acres. What attracts so many people to Lehigh Acres is how affordable the housing is. It's because and had heard me tell them how freaking bad Lehigh Acres is. But here's what people don't know about Lehigh Acres is that the unemployment rate right now is at the lowest levels it's ever been. And when the unemployment rates go back to where they were in 2007 and 2008, hopefully that never happens. We're going to find out that Lehigh Acres was the absolute worst place they could have moved to. It gets down. Southwest Florida is known for home invasion robberies, and Lehigh Acres is the pinnacle of it. Going in a new house, steal the appliances, this is normal crap in Lehigh Acres. These people that are moving into Lehigh Acres have no idea how bad that little region will get. Las Vegas, Nevada, and Lehigh Acres, Florida are the 2 most vulnerable markets. If we go back to the last crash, this is where the absolute worst crap happened. However, they're building more, they're buying more, they're moving more people in from other places, and these people have absolutely no idea how vulnerable this real estate market is. All these houses were grow houses. There was years where they were busting between Golden Gate Estates and Lehigh Acres about 100 grow houses a year. New states have different laws now, so that's not a very likely scenario. But if we take a look at the types of crimes that are happening in other countries right now and how those crimes are starting to increment in the United States, we can get an idea of the types of crimes that will most likely be prevalent when this thing goes to crap. Imagine if now there's a vacant window where the real estate market slows down, people start moving out, they start getting scared, and you still have those vacuums being filled by people who are coming from Venezuela and Cuba now. A lot of them are not getting their papers. You can guess it's going to get pretty freaking nasty. But I've been telling you guys, if you're moving from out of state, don't end up in Lehigh Acres. They're building residential houses in huge volumes. They're not putting in any schools. They're not putting in any infrastructure. There's no jobs in Lehigh Acres. Naples and Fort Myers is where people have to commute to for work. These places are far. The traffic is congested. And if something were economically to fail, these places would be the most vulnerable. These places are called food deserts. That's what Lehigh is referred to, a food desert. It's a place where there's not even enough supermarkets. There's not even enough basic car washes and tire places and oil change places. Nothing is in Lehigh Acres. It's a complete desert with no investment, yet they just keep popping up new houses, new houses. I lived in Lehigh Acres for a little bit over a year, and I had a lot of fun out there. Riding the ATV in the daytime or at night was a lot of fun, but I will tell you, you can get into a lot of trouble in Lehigh Acres. If you're out late at night to remote places, you could run into large groups of people. You don't know what they're going to do, and they could have stubbornly tried to go in there. Like, there's a lot of uncertainty about this police report and a lot of things that until we get more information, we're not really going to know the exact reason why this thing happened. And I suspect because law enforcement knows how things are out there, that they'll have very little incentive to divulge more information about this. So what's happening in Lehigh Acres? You can see that the vast majority of the map is orange, which is Hispanic. But those used to be predominantly 90% white, so they would have been like the dark blue. You can see that along the bottom, there's a few spots that are black. Lehigh Acres was like a checkerboard of different little squares were all different colors because it was very mixed, but it's becoming more segregated. You can see a more defined green towards Fort Myers and oranges that are deeper. It means that Fort Myers and Lehigh is becoming more segregated. Namely, in a matter of just a few years, the black population has left, the Hispanic population has grown, and the white population has retreated. You can see that Cape Coral, which only used to have one square of Hispanic, that's orange, now has orange scattered all throughout it. It means that Hispanics are also moving into Cape Coral.
Doesn't matter.
Eventually, Cape Coral could end up with an increase in the Hispanic population.
And take a picture of his fucking license plate.
And most likely, you would think that it would be white people buying up the most expensive real estate. With more economic mobility, would be the ones moving into more expensive areas. A lot of them, if they're coming from Miami, are probably buying cash. And you can see on the east side of Fort Myers, there's a triangle of orange. That is a very poor area, predominantly Guatemalan. Now, something crazy is happening in Miami, where as you can see, oranges have started to pop up along the water. The beach, that used to be exclusively white areas.
Doesn't matter.
No other racial group could afford to buy these places. We're talking properties into the millions of millions, but with Mexico going through some crap, Venezuela going through some crap, and a lot of other places, a lot of wealthy Hispanics are coming in worth millions of dollars right here along the coast. So a lot of the money that you're seeing here along the coast of Miami is coming from Colombia, Mexico, Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay, Venezuela, Colombia. It's just like a lot of different countries from South and Central America are all putting their money here in Miami. You can also see what I was telling you guys too, that Hialeah is pushing further east and that blacks are being displaced out of Northwest Miami. I had really assumed that all this growth we're talking about in Miami was white people from the Northeast, but in reality, it seems like the Hispanics are the group that's really growing and taking up the most expensive real estate. When you look at Pinellas County, that's Clearwater and St. Petersburg, exclusively white area, you can see pockets of black and Hispanic, mostly Hispanic, starting to pop up there as well. Even South Tampa, which is that little peninsula towards the right, used to be purely white. I mean, you can see that the white population in Tampa has really been shrinking all throughout both Tampa, St. Pete, and Clearwater. The Ocala area used to be predominantly white. You can see that it's more fragmented now, with Hispanics and blacks displacing the white majority. In the Ocala area, a lot of the Hispanics are going to be Puerto Ricans. And yes, around Marion Oaks, you can see that it's become a Hispanic and black area.
Doesn't matter.
On the East Coast, inland of Daytona, there's a huge area that just all of a sudden out of nowhere became predominantly Hispanic around Crescent City. I don't know what this is about, so I got to go out there and find out. I'm going to assume it's mostly Puerto Ricans. But it's interesting because this area used to be all white, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Hispanics have taken over this little area. Back in South Fort Myers, the African American community there is completely gone, and now Harlem Heights is mostly Hispanic. Yeah, that was a really quick, sudden, like just the black people are gone, now it's Hispanic. The city of LaBelle, the city core used to be white, it is now almost entirely Hispanic. Now, Jacksonville looks like what Lehigh used to look like. You can see on the east side of the river, there's even red, that's Asian. A lot of them are going to be Cambodian, Vietnamese, Filipino. But you can see that there's a huge and growing Asian community in the Jacksonville area. Hispanics in orange are also popping out throughout the entire city.
Doesn't matter.
Now other groups like blacks, Hispanics, and Asians are being able to afford these areas that historically have only been able to be afforded by whites. So it possibly could mean that other minority groups that in the past were not able to afford this really expensive real estate today are able to do it. Guess we're going to have to do a new trip to Jacksonville soon and explore what's really happening in this part of the city, because it looks like a lot of people are moving into Jacksonville and really changing the landscape of the city. Most of the time, Asian communities are going to be in rich areas. However, I have noted that in Jacksonville, there's a few Asian communities that are really poor. Alright, I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions, my subscribers, because I'm a little puzzled by this new information that's coming out. I think we're going to revisit and explore this topic about changing demographics in the South, because other states like Georgia and Alabama have also had a lot of changes as well.